My name is Richard Medhurst. I'm a British journalist and I've been covering Julian Assange's case since it began. Let's go through the ruling today that was passed down by the High Court. They have granted Assange permission to appeal. However, it is but a partial victory. So I'm going to go through the document with you guys. I highlighted a bunch of things that I haven't shown anyone yet, and I wanted to go through them with you. So basically, this means Assange has not exhausted all his legal options in the UK, because today the outcome was that either he can continue inside the English and Welsh justice system, or this is if they would have blocked him, he would have to go to the European Court of Human Rights, as the UK is, of course, still a member of the Council of Europe. That is not the case, however. He has not exhausted those options and can continue. And I just put this video here for those of you who want a summary about the Assange case from the beginning to the end in one single video. And again, it's a legal case, so it's difficult to condense 4 years of hearings. But I did it. I tried my best, and I think you'll find it quite to your liking. This is the video if you want to watch and understand, or you know what, but you want to share it with some colleagues. That's the one to share. It's called "Why the United States is Trying to Imprison Julian Assange and Why You Should Care." Here are the points that the judges did agree with, because remember that Assange is presenting 9 points to appeal on. They didn't go with everything. They gave him a conditional appeal, okay, and this is to do with the fact that the lower judge, was wrong to send the decision to the Secretary of State, because again, just very briefly, in England, if you're extradited, it's the Home Secretary who has the final say. Again, this is illegal to extradite someone if they're going to be given the death penalty. So there are considerations to be made. You cannot just hand the paper to the Home Secretary and then, send someone to a country where you know that they're going to be given the death penalty. So here, there are 2 things that the judges agreed with. They said that it was wrong for the judge to send it to the Home Secretary, and then wrong for the Home Secretary to sign it. Okay? They're basically saying here, and I'll switch now to the full document. They're saying here, of course, that the respondents, that means the Americans in this case, have permission to file any assurances with the court by the 16th of April 2024. Because they're saying, look, the United States did not provide sufficient assurances that Julian Assange will not be given the death penalty, because this is an absolute must. It's non-negotiable. The United States have to provide assurances that his First Amendment rights will be respected, that he will be treated like an American citizen. Remember that they're basically discriminating against Julian Assange purely based on his nationality, and we know that they will do this for a fact. Okay, and if I go back to my thread here, this is very clear that it will constitute a violation of his right to free speech also. So we have 3 things: prejudice based on nationality, no right to freedom of expression, and also the death penalty itself. So these are the assurances the United States have to provide. I have to go back a bit to the previous assurances that the Americans gave, because what they said before is, okay, we won't put Assange in a hellhole and mistreat him and torture him there. That's the best we can offer you. And, oh, by the way, we give ourselves the right to withdraw from these assurances. Okay. So basically, you can't trust them, because, someone who's promising you something and then saying inside the promise that they can withdraw from the promise isn't promising you anything at all, are they? They're not promising very much. They have to add to that these 3 things. Now, they have a deadline. They have until the 16th of April. If they do not do this, if the Americans do not file any assurances, in that case, they will give Assange leave to appeal on grounds 4, 5, and 9. So these are pertaining to the points that I just mentioned. And if the Americans do provide assurances, then what happens is that there's a bit of ping pong, basically, back and forth, okay? The Americans file by the 16th of April, and then Assange's team have until the 30th of April, so about 2 weeks, to reply. And then the Secretary of State, the Home Secretary, has until the 14th, and so another 2 weeks to reply. If that is the case, then there will also be a hearing on the 20th of May. So you see, it's back and forth. Meanwhile, Assange is sitting in prison, and the whole process is being dragged out, is being elongated, and to the detriment of his health. They have refused leave to appeal on several grounds, which I'll go through now in a second, which are, they're frankly quite funny. The way that they write in this judgment, and again, it's about 66 pages, so I had to, I was sitting through it all day reading it, and it's really quite something, honestly. I mean, I've picked out some bits that are going to make you laugh because of how absurd they are. Let me go through what I wrote here. This point is very funny. They say here that the primary complaint that Assange is making is that the judge, they're talking about the lower court judge, she didn't take into consideration that Assange had exposed, criminal behavior on the part of the United States, and that this basically amounts to a protected political act. And she didn't consider that, the whole indictment, the extradition is punishment, right? Assange exposed the US government, so now the US government want to punish him by extraditing him and throwing him in jail. She didn't, she just didn't touch this at all, which is true. But here's the reasoning of the judges, of the high court judges, why they agree with the lower court judge. They say that, sure, we agree that Assange did this out of political conviction, right? When he published the leaks, the documents, and that these documents expose serious crimes on behalf of the US government. They accept all of this. But they say it does not follow, however, that the request for his extradition is made on account of his political views. The authorities relied on by Assange's lawyer do not establish the contrary. I mean, they, I don't know. It's like trying to prove a negative. It's like, I mean, it's so absurd. How can you reason with someone like this? And then they say that basically the lower court judge was correct to come to this conclusion that the Americans are not prosecuting Assange because of what he has done and because of his political opinions. How did the judges come to this conclusion? Very simple. They say an American official, Kronberg, who is a federal prosecutor, came to the court and he testified to the court, right? I remember this. And he told the court that he is acting out of good faith. That's it. That's the proof. Oh, and the killer at the end, quite literally, is this: that Julian Assange does not accuse Mr. Kronberg of dishonesty. That in itself is fatal to this aspect of the applicant's case. Here I can only agree. Here I actually agree with the judges. The fact that Julian Assange did not accuse the federal prosecutor of being a dishonest man is bad and fatal to this argument. I agree, because he should have done this. He should have said, I don't recognize the legitimacy of this person, this official. He is coming to kill me. He is lying to the court to get me in a super maximum prison. I mean, obviously, Assange's lawyers are making this case. Don't get me wrong. But they should have accused this man of dishonesty. And obviously, by you can also always perceive this implicitly, that they're saying he's dishonest without really saying it, and that maybe this is the better path to go with, because you don't want to appear like you're being too, bold to the judges. I don't know. I'm just telling you that this is my opinion from what I've seen, and that the point here is I mean, it's quite ludicrous. I mean, okay, let's say, fine, Assange and his lawyers did not accuse the federal prosecutor of being dishonest. Fine, and the case is still political. That doesn't change anything. Mr. Assange could have zero legal defense. Julian Assange could stay silent without uttering a word, and the case against him would still be political. What difference does it make? This is obvious. So now we go to the part about the CIA wanting to kill Julian Assange. I understand that the judges want to pretend like, oh, this isn't true and so on. But let's read what they wrote, and you can perceive perhaps how ridiculous this is. So they're saying here that the rationale of the United States wanting to extradite Julian Assange during the time of the when he was in the embassy, they say that it is removed if the applicant is extradited, that extradition would result in him being lawfully in the custody of the United States, and the reasons, if they can be called that, for rendition or kidnapping or assassination then fall away. Wow. So basically they're saying, well, look, even if the United States want to kill, kidnap, or render Julian Assange,
it doesn't matter because we're going to do it for them. Right? Because this is an extradition to the United States. So if we're sending him to the United States, then there's no need for the Americans to poison him, is there? Or to kill him or to kidnap him. Yes, I suppose when you put it that way, but you're doing it for them. That's why. I swear to God, it's something funny. You really have to read it again. Extradition would result in Assange being lawfully in the custody of the United States authorities, and the reasons, if they can be called that, for rendition, kidnap, or assassination then fall away. I guess they do. But it's still wrong. And they fall away. They fall away because you're doing it for them. You're killing him for them. You're killing Assange for the Americans. When I say you, I mean our justice system. If it can be called that. The judges think that Mr. Kronberg is an honest individual because he said so, and no one questioned this. And the judges think that it doesn't matter that they want to kidnap or kill or render Mr. Assange because the extradition does that for them. Yes. I I suppose one can say that. And do they think that these points are worth discussing? No. Doesn't matter. So the only thing that can be appealed now are the assurances. Now, I don't think that the US government are going to back down from this case because we have had two successive administrations of gangsters from Donald Trump to Joe Biden prosecuting Julian Assange. It would almost be sadistic if they were to drop it now. And I'll show you one last thing. Look at the language in the case against Julian Assange. They say that the treaty violations are non-existent. So the reason for this is that they say, yes, up until 1989, you had all these extradition laws that said you cannot extradite someone for a political offense. And they say this evaporated with 2003, and so now it's okay. So basically, let's put aside the hundreds of years of extradition, of customary extradition law that forbid you for sending someone to their death or to a foreign country because of their political opinions, and we're just going to go ahead with what they said in 2003. And on top of that, they say here, turning to 2003, the starting point is that the language of Section 81 is clear. It precludes extradition where extradition is for the purpose of prosecuting the requested person on account of their political opinions. It says nothing, however, about preventing extradition for a political offense. Although there may be a degree of overlap, the two are separate concepts. Yeah, I mean, sure, why don't you go ahead and start debating the difference between poisoning and assassination? There's obviously a degree of overlap over there, right? I might poison someone without killing them, but if I assassinate them, maybe I'm killing them with and without poison. I mean, this is really funny. This is really funny, and it's dozens and dozens of pages of this rubbish, where they're really splitting hairs and acting like it doesn't cover this. I'm sorry. The extradition treaty covers this, and the extradition act covers this, and they're doing this on purpose to go deeper and deeper and deeper into into an affair and a process of splitting hairs, just for the sake of letting the extradition go ahead. And here we have another similar situation with 2021 with the previous ruling, where it looks like it sounds good, okay. It looks like it could be okay, but then you read into it and you understand what the game is. So last time they said no extradition because of his health. Then we had 2 years of debating, whether he's sick enough or not. And then now they're trying to make it about the assurances, which we've already gone through, by the way. Remember, since October 2021, we've been talking about assurances. I mean, Jesus, I haven't even brought up Mendoza, right? I haven't even brought up the Mendoza case. this is a case that was mentioned by Julian's lawyers, and they show you, I mean, with not just his case, but numerous other cases, how they lied. The Americans lied. They say all sorts of nice things, and then once the person is in, on U.S. soil, they put them into a hellhole without any medical, promises fulfilled or legal promises fulfilled. All sorts of things about their condition, their charges, which is really something that a banana republic would do. Like saying that, yeah, we want to prosecute someone for A, and then when they get to the other country, they have prosecution X and F. This is something that the Americans don't even deny. Okay, so I had the U.S. lawyer in front of me saying that, they and the judges asked these questions, so it's not like there's any ambiguity here. The judges directly asked this question: what is there anything to stop the United States from piling on new charges once Assange is in America? And the U.S. lawyer says, no, there's nothing stopping them. He can do this any moment. Is there another question? Is there anything to stop the United States from giving him the death penalty once he's in U.S. soil? And the U.S. lawyer says no. So there's a direct question, a very specific question about death penalty, about additional charges, and a very specific answer that both lead to one conclusion, to only one single comprehension, which is that the Americans will kill and can kill Assange. Make no mistake about it. I mean, we are not even considering the current charges themselves. I mean, 175 years is obviously going to kill someone either way. And if you give them 50 years, at 50 years, you will kill them either way. Yes? So it all leads back to the same conclusion. And the Americans are not pretending to do otherwise. So I'm a bit complexed here, because when they go to fulfill these assurances by April 16th, I don't see them honoring anything that they say. They might come and say, okay, well, we give Assange, First Amendment rights, or they'll say it like, we promise to treat him equal to a U.S. citizen, whatever that means. And then once he gets to America and there's a trial, they'll argue in court, well, we promised to treat him like a U.S. citizen, but we didn't promise him specifically First Amendment rights. This is the exact fucking bullshit that Americans will do. I swear to God. I guarantee you anything you like. They will say, we promise to treat him like an American citizen or give him the rights of an American citizen. And then they will go and say, well, he doesn't actually have U.S. citizenship, and this wasn't a legally binding contract. So actually, we don't really have to give him those rights, or we can give him everything else except the First Amendment rights, which we preclude. Specific farce, like the exact farce. And I'll show you here. This is Mendoza's case. So this is the work that I did on a man called David Mendoza, who is a friend. As I was investigating, I didn't know him, of course, until I began covering his case and interviewing him multiple times and researching the topic. And I published these documents here. You can see, for example, just to show you that we are going nowhere with this case, just to show you how screwed, forgive me, Assange is, because even if the Americans give the court and the country, rather, what they want, and they allow the extradition, it's very, very bad. So here, for example, these are diplomatic promises made by the Americans to the Spanish government, and they say that he can go to. So basically, we'll bring him from Spain to America, we'll try him, and then we'll send him back to you. Complete lie from the first moment, right? And look how they say it. They say, as further indicated, it does not object to Mendoza making an application to serve a sentence in Spain. That's not the same thing. Any prisoner in the world can make an application to serve their sentence in a foreign country. It's a right that you have. It's not something that you need to be specifically written out. The Strasbourg Treaty covers this. But you see how they try to put one over and hoodwink foreign governments. It's so funny. And I mean, it's not just foreign governments. These are lawyers reading this. They should know these games. But again, I'll read this to you, for example, right? They say the Western District of Washington at Seattle does not object to him making an application to serve his sentence in Spain. The Spanish say, no, this is too weak. We want stronger assurances. Hey, guess what? That's where we are right now with the Assange case this morning. Except the difference is that it's Mendoza's lawyers who then got the Spanish government, the judiciary to force the executive into giving stronger assurances. But right now we're sort of at a similar threshold, right? Judiciary is telling the Americans these assurances are too weak. We want stronger ones. So in Mendoza's case, he was very lucky. He got a contract. So a contract is something that is legally binding. You cannot, say, well, I didn't promise this or I didn't mean this. No, it's a contract. Look, it's got signatures on it. Sirene Madrid, that's the Spanish authorities, and then Embajada, it says United States Embassy, and then of course the extraditee Mendoza. So they signed this, and then do you think they upheld their promises? No, they broke it anyway. So you can't win with the Americans. I mean, I don't mean that in the sense of ultimate victory. I just mean like they just they always find a way to wiggle out. It's seriously like the most unjust banana republic on the steroids, on unbelievable steroids. Can we take you? Can we extradite you? Oh, okay. Well, we'll just lie to the government and then take you anyway and torture you. Oh, and if we can't do that, well, we'll just kidnap you. And actually, if we even if we can extradite you, we'll just kidnap you and torture you anyway, because it's faster to kidnap you than to take you legally, even though we already own this foreign government. It's like pure banana republic. I mean, again, we should call it something else, like passion fruit republic, because of how bad it is, and I don't like passion fruit. So, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with. And then, of course, to show you just how banana republic, these are, look at the contract. You see the contract on the left, this is the original. And so Mendoza gets to the United States and he says, hey, can you give me a copy of the contract that we signed together that proves that I have to go back to Spain because you're not sending me back? And the Americans give him a copy without his signature, so he can't go to the government or go to the courts. They just they fucking photoshopped his name and signature out of the contract. I mean, have you ever seen something so ridiculous? I mean, this is a government literally falsifying its own documents. I have never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. This is who the British government is asking by April 16th to give assurances. This is who the British government is requesting assurances from. I mean, really the first time round in 2021, 2022, they shouldn't have been believed anyway. But if there's, I mean, I really can't repeat this enough. It's really, really a bad idea to believe anything the U.S. government says. And it's disturbing, actually, that the judges write things like this. I'll show you here. This is from 2021, from the original ruling, where the British judge says that federal prosecutors are bound by principles similar to those in the CPS to ensure the fair and effective exercise of prosecutorial discretion, which means to act without political bias or motivation. Mr. Kronberg is one of the prosecutors involved. He states that he unequivocally that this prosecution is founded on objective evidence of criminality. I have been given no reason. I mean, she's basically, she's kissing his backside. Like excuse me, are you a representative of the U.S. government? The guy himself didn't speak about himself this way. I mean, you're making him. You're making the case for the Americans and then saying, yes, this man is of the utmost integrity. I believe him. He acts without bias. He is objective. He is the best in the world. Oh my God, I love him. Yes, he is acting in good faith. This is a legitimate prosecution. And the judges today find, nothing wrong with this. Okay. So you understand what happened now. I think you can, you get the idea of what a banana republic, process this is, and that's it. That's where we're at. So, as I said, I mean, they basically, the 3 points that Assange, these are the 3 points the Americans have to now provide assurances on. That Assange has First Amendment protections, that he'll be treated like a US citizen and not discriminated, based on his nationality, and that it doesn't violate Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which ensures freedom of expression, and that he will never face the death penalty, right? So these are the 3 things. I don't know what the Americans are going to say, but I know that they will lie. And I know this because I have evidence and proof of them lying before and then lying again. And, I think, again, it's like trying to prove a negative when you're saying this man showed that these people are criminals, and now the same people are trying to prosecute him. I mean, how can you disconnect these 2 things? I don't understand why the judges think these 2 things are separate, and that's their only evidence. So again, like she says the lower district judge. I think the prosecution is legitimate because the federal prosecutor is honest. Okay, and what about the CIA trying to kill him? Are the CIA honest? No. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's an ongoing thing. So this is what we're dealing with. These are very deranged talking points and ways of seeing things. And I can assure you that were Mr. Assange, were Julian somebody else, and were this another government, they would have blocked it a long time ago already, because of how ridiculous it is and how egregious. And again, even if you want to play this out, there's no need for him to be in prison. I remind you, he's in a maximum security prison. I'll show you a clip. This is from Stella, from his wife, when she was speaking today at the court.
The courts recognize that Julian is exposed to a flagrant denial of his freedom of expression rights, that he is being discriminated against on the basis of his nationality, an Australian, and that he remains exposed to the death penalty. And yet, what the courts have done have been to invite a political intervention from the United States to send a letter saying it's all okay. I find this astounding. 5 years into this case, the United States has managed to show the court that their case remains an attack on press freedom, an attack on Julian's life. What the courts haven't agreed to look at is the evidence that the United States has plotted to assassinate Julian, to kidnap him. Because if it acknowledges that, then of course he can't be sent to the United States. Julian is a political prisoner. He is a journalist, and he is being persecuted because he exposed the true cost of war in human lives. This case is a retribution. It is a signal to all of you that if you expose the interests that are driving war, they will come after you. They will put you in prison and they will try to kill you. Julian is just a few days away from the 5th anniversary of his arrest and imprisonment in Belmarsh prison. He has been in Belmarsh for 5 years without conviction, and the charges against him are to punish him for publishing the truth, for publishing evidence of the war crimes committed by the country that is trying to extradite him. Now, the UK courts have invited the United States to issue assurances. The Biden administration should not issue assurances. They should drop this shameful case that should never have been brought. Julian should never have been imprisoned for a single day. This is a shame on every democracy. Julian is a political prisoner. He is a publisher, and he is being published for expressing his political opinion, for expressing freedom of the press in its purest form. Free Julian. I ask everyone to rally behind him and call for his freedom, call for the Biden administration to drop the case and support House Resolution 934 before the US Congress to drop this case. Thank you.
Yes, well, more than correct. More than correct how scandalous the case is. Of course, if there are any updates about Assange, I will have them for you, instantly on Twitter, and then, of course, here on the YouTube channel. And there's a body of work that I've done. You can find it here. For example, if you look at this thread, I've got day one of this is referring to day one of the latest hearing, which happened on February 20th, and then also on the 21st in London. So I was there, and this is day one of that thread of day one of that hearing, day one video, then the thread, the live thread, and the video, and then here's my coverage from 2020, from the High Court 2021. So I've tried to condense all of it here in an easy to navigate link. So make sure to check those out if you're unfamiliar with the case, because once you familiarize yourself, once you are well versed with it, you will find that it is a fascinating saga in the worst way possible. The only thing you can do is protest it, really.